Hello and welcome to my top 25 week 2 review. A lot of crazy stuff this week. Let's not talk too much here. Like and subscribe would help. Comment would also help. Let's get straight into it. So our first game, I honestly predicted that this would be more low scoring, and I did not have faith in Miami to do it. But man, oh man, was I wrong. They absolutely killed it, man. They led the game pretty much like the whole time. I mean, Texas Tech got the big jump at the start, go 10-zip, and then 17-7. But then Miami took it back right before the end of the half. Man, and that was just it. That was the last time Texas Tech saw the lead. Miami just took off. Their quarterback, man, Miami's quarterback making a name for himself. Final score 33-48. Yeah, their quarterback, Miami's quarterback, played great. 21 for 30, 374 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Those are some really, really, really good stats. The Texas A&M quarterback was 31 for 53. He threw 53 passes, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Ultimately, Miami just owned this game. I'm excited for Miami now. I'm actually excited. Another SEC team falls to an ACC team. To be quite frankly honest, I mean, I was really hoping Ole Miss would fall to Tulane, man, because Alabama falls to Texas, A&M falls to Texas Tech. I think another SEC team might have lost as well. I just can't think of them right now. Oh, no, they didn't fall, but they had a really tough game. It was Tennessee. I mean, the SEC, man, they just don't look that good right now. But we'll get to those games later. I mean, I don't want to just go out of my way to be mean to Georgia. I thought they'd shut him out. They didn't. I was pretty close to my prediction, though. But ultimately, it took an entire quarter for them to score. But by the time they did score in the second quarter, I mean, the game was gone. They scored, 31 points in a quarter. So they showed life. I mean, 31 points in a quarter is very impressive nonetheless. I mean, that's numbers that other teams were putting up very easily. I'm pretty sure it took a punt return to get going. I'm not gonna just shit on Georgia. They played phenomenally. There's nothing to be said here. They should remain at number 1. Youngstown State at Ohio State. Now, I said in a little game like this, Ohio State will finally show their offensive capabilities. And yes, they did, but they also didn't. I mean, 35 points. They were off to a phenomenal start. I mean, they went into the half up 28-7. I was like, this game is over. And then they proceeded to score a touchdown for the rest of the game. I don't know if that's because they put in the second strings or whatnot, but I mean, they had a couple good connections, but ultimately 35-7 just doesn't impress me for the offensive ability we needed to see. I feel like a lot of people can agree with me on that too. Still, nonetheless, I mean, they dominated. 28-point game is still a domination. They really shouldn't move in the polls. It's just still not what you like to see. Delaware at Penn State, I mean, this game really should have been a shutout, but, dude, that run was kind of insane by Delaware, man. I was not ready for a 66-yard run from Delaware. Kind of crazy. It was 7-14 going into the end of the first quarter, but, I mean, it was all Penn State's game from there on. Drew Aller wasn't really much of a presence in this game. I mean, 22 for 26, 204 yards and a touchdown. He played a good game, but really, it was just the running game. I mean, it was just the running game. They destroyed. They even got a pick 6. Drew Aller was a presence, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the run game was just more dominant in this game. They just ran the ball down their throats. Nothing to be said here other than easy win for Penn State. Honestly, I mean, I was kind of right about this. I said Notre Dame would just it'd be like a tough game, but they would dominate in the end. That's kind of what ended up happening. I mean, 45-24. It took until the very end for that to happen. Notre Dame scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to finally pull away. They ended up just dominating. Sam Hartman, again, has another great game, 15 for 24. He completed 15 passes and still threw for 286 yards and 4 touchdowns. 4 of his 15 completed passes were touchdowns. That's That's really something, man. As well as their running back had a great game. 14 carries, 134 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They were great. They were a great team. So yeah, nothing to be said here. I mean, I expected this. NC State's probably not going to be that good, but they showed fight. So they're not terrible, but I say I could probably lower this team to a 7-6 team this year. Utah Baylor, I already kind of talked about this one. I got comments because I was like, well, this was my prediction first off. I said Utah would struggle offensively with their backups. Ultimately, Baylor, was just terrible against Texas State. Utah should win. They ended up winning, but it took all game, and Baylor almost scored a touchdown at the end. The final play of the game definitely should have been pass interference, but other people said, hey, there were plenty of calls on Baylor that did not get called. So I'll take your guys' word for it. So, yeah, I guess it was kind of deserved, kind of like karma for Baylor, whatever. I already pretty much talked about this in another video. The basic breakdown for this game is Utah was terrible. They're not a top 12 team at all. Troy at Kansas State. I was pretty close on this one. I said 17-35. It was just a little bit in the other direction. Kansas State dominated. I mean, Kansas State, that's a good win against Troy, I feel like. I feel like that is actually a pretty impressive win. Their quarterback was 21 for 32, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, but an interception. Their running back, 16 carries, 58 yards. Ultimately, Kansas State just dominated, probably defensively, if anything. Yeah, their quarterback was 17 for 32 with an interception. Yeah, they just dominated. Troy's running game was the thing keeping them going. Nebraska at Colorado. A lot of people want to talk about this one. I feel like this was expected in my books. Nebraska is not a good team. They really only scored touchdowns. I think both of their touchdowns were runs by their quarterback. No, it was actually a pass with no time left to make the score a little bit closer. Jeff Sims was 9 for 15, 106 yards, and 1 interception. And his only touchdown came from running. So, yeah, Shedeur Sanders has another breakout game. 31 for 42, 393 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Ultimately, Colorado dominated. There's nothing to be said. I mean, I feel like we should have expected this. The world having this game as close as it was just ridiculous, in my opinion. Nebraska they did not show anything impressive. This was completely expected in my book. Charleston Southern at Clemson. This was looking scary. I mean, I said Clemson would dominate. I mean, they did in the end, but hey, they went into the half. They went into the half up 17-24 with a last-second field goal to put them up 7 points. It was just from that point on, they dominated. Ultimately, I feel like they kind of ran up the score. Yes and no. I feel like I don't know. It's just like going from 17-24 to 66-17 just feels like, all right, we'll make it look bigger. But whatever. Clemson finally puts their shit together. Clemson's not that good of a team, man. They cannot pull their shit together. They make so many mistakes. They're not a good team at all. UNLV at Michigan. I said UNLV would get 6 and Michigan would get 42. I was pretty close. Ultimately, I heard a lot of people saying J.J. McCarthy was close to perfect. He really was. 22 for 25, 278 yards and 2 touchdowns. Blake Corum, 15 carries, 80 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, Michigan, yeah, they put down 35 points. They did this last week against East Carolina. I don't know if it's just them putting in their backups or something or why they're not scoring more, but they were up 35-0 going into the end of the third quarter. They could have put down more points. Not going to defend them. They could have put down more points, but they didn't. So, yeah, I don't really know what happened there. And then this poor, sad game that I favored Tulane in. And I even bet money on it. Little did I know that Tulane's starting quarterback, who I was hyping up for Heisman, is out for an injury. This is what happened last year to Tulane football. It's probably going to happen again this year. They obtain a loss. Ultimately, the final score is further than it should have been. They got a scoop and score to put the game away. Yeah, Tulane led this game. They were up 17-7, and just Ole Miss went unanswered pretty much the whole game. There was a 4th and 4 where Tulane could have made a huge stop, but ended up just letting a touchdown occur. It was just dumb mistakes, no starting quarterback to lead the team. Tulane, this is such a good Tulane team. It just sucks that their starting quarterback was out because they were locking Ole Miss up all game. If they could have had their starting quarterback in, making good plays, like this game was over. Sadly, though, Ole Miss wins. There was so many Ole Miss fans there, man. It's just ridiculous. I'm like, wow. I was like, do you guys not have jobs? Like, how are you able to travel to another state to watch a Tulane game? Like, what? But that was just whatever. Ole Miss wins. I mean, nonetheless, Ole Miss looked pretty solid. This is a really good Tulane defense that was locking them up, and then they started to find ways around him. Jackson Dart was actually showing he was running the ball, man. Like, he kept making these QB draws right up the middle or QB reads right up the middle, and, man, they were just ruining Tulane on it. What looked like Tulane was just shutting down their run game just flipped instantly. Tulsa at Washington, I said this was going to be an annihilation. I mean, it was, don't get me wrong, but not really what I expected it to be. Kind of felt like, I mean, Tulsa was a bad team last year. I don't know what they've done in the offseason. See, Michael Penix Jr. was 28 for 38, 409 yards, 3 touchdowns, but an interception, like an interception to Tulsa, ugh. I don't know really what happened there, but yeah, I mean, he had a really good game nonetheless. 400 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, great game. Washington dominates, nothing to be said there. And then this game, oh my God. I mean, going into they went into the half up by a touchdown, right? No, they went into the half up to a touchdown. I said they were going to kill him. They didn't. This game was very close to the very end. I mean, I don't even know what happened here. I don't even know how to say it. The Austin Peay quarterback was 29 for 39, 260 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He played better than Joe Milton. He completed more passes. I think his ratio was better. Joe Milton was 21 for 33, 228 yards, 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, we're going to call him APSU. The APSU quarterback threw an interception, which could push it in Joe Milton's favor. Ultimately, the run game for Tennessee was what was carrying them. But, man, they pulled this one out of their butt, in my opinion. Their quarterback was just the APSU quarterback played great, which is not good for Tennessee. Not good at all. App State at UNC. I actually said App State was going to give them a tough time, and ultimately UNC would win it. Yeah, they took it to overtime, man. It's just App State does what they do best, and ultimately North Carolina wins on a huge 4th down stop in overtime. Big victory there. They stay undefeated. I believe a lot of people watched it here. Actually, I will go back and look at the stats. Ultimately, I think a lot of people were talking down on Drake May in this one. Yeah, Drake May kind of sucked. 21 for 30, 208 yards, no touchdowns, but no interceptions. So, I mean, yes and no, he sucked. I think he ran one in. That's through the air. I think he ran one in. So that was there. But their running back was where they just dominated. I mean, 26 carries, 234 yards, and 3 touchdowns for the running back. But honestly, App State, man, their quarterback, Jay Aguilar, 22 for 43, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. It's pretty good stats for App State. And then their running back, 26 carries, 127 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like, the game was in favor of North Carolina almost the whole time, and then it, like, jumps up in App State's favor and then goes back down. Ultimately, North Carolina could have put it away with a field goal. The guy missed it the first time, but they called a timeout to try and ice him. Oh, look at that. North Carolina's going to make it now. Nope, he missed twice. He missed 2 times in a row, and then they win it in overtime. He lucked out. Very, very close game. Very fun to watch. I said Oklahoma was going to absolutely destroy this SMU team, and they just didn't. Another top 25 team that's like, what in the world, dude? They were into the fourth quarter. Very close score, if I could get my damn words out. 14-11. Dylan Gabriel, he had 4 touchdowns. I mean, that's still really good. 19 for 27, 176 yards. And then their running back had 21 carries for 117 yards. It was the SMU quarterback, 26 for 45, 250 yards, a touchdown, but an interception. So ultimately, Oklahoma pulls away at the end, but man, just not a good look for Oklahoma. SMU, I don't think they're a good team at all this year. Could be wrong. It's only second week. But yeah, it's just terrible. Lafayette at Duke, we expected a blowout. That's what we got. I mean, Duke, they should not have lost this game. There's really nothing to be said here. And then the big one, Texas at Bama. I really did not think this Texas team, thought they were overhyped. I did not think they were going to go into this game. I thought Jalen Milroe was a pretty underrated quarterback. But, man, Texas got her done, man. Ultimately, Jalen Milroe, I said the prediction was Alabama. It would be a close game, but Alabama would be just out of reach pretty much the whole time. That's what it was for Texas, what it looked like. They were just out of reach the whole game, man. And Jalen Milroe was 14 for 27, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Quinn Ewers was 24 for 38, 349 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He did great. Ultimately, Quinn Ewers was the star of the show. Jalen Milroe threw 2 bad picks. He had a deep bomb, which was good. But yeah, it got really close with 11 minutes and 8 seconds left. But yeah, Texas scored a touchdown to go up, back 10 points, and within 8 minutes and 23 seconds, Bama could not put on points. So what does this mean? It means Texas is for real. That was a full Tuscaloosa Stadium. That was a loud Tuscaloosa Stadium. I did not think, I was like, holy cow, dude. Like, if in some world Texas wins this game, that's impressive. That was fucking impressive. There was so many Bama fans there. That was a loud game, especially just going up against Alabama on your own. It's so difficult. But Bama falls in week 2, man. Very, very, very surprising. Oregon at Texas Tech. If you watched my prediction video, I was like, I'm going to regret favoring Oregon in this one, but I'm going to favor them. I was right in doing so. Oregon actually had to punch on a field goal, and Texas Tech got the ball back, but sadly, they lose on a pick 6 with 35 seconds left. It's ultimately Texas Tech's quarterback. I was actually pretty close on my prediction, too. Ultimately, Texas Tech's quarterback was what dragged him down. He had a good game, but also a terrible game. He was 24 for 38. 282 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Pretty good stats, but 3 interceptions, one of them being a pick 6. Like, that is just that you can't have 3 interceptions. That's going to make you lose the game. Ultimately, Texas Tech was in this game. They had 4 turnovers. Oregon had none. For Oregon to only win by 8 points is not the best look. Don't really know what happened. Bo Nix had a great game. 32 for 44, 359 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no turnovers for him. But ultimately, why is Bo Nix the leading rusher? 9 carries, 46 yards. Where is Bucky Irving? What did he do in this game? I don't know if he was hurt, what happened there, but nonetheless, he was absent. The rush game was terrible. The rush game was absolutely terrible, which was honestly where Oregon needed to attack, because we saw in that Wyoming game, Texas Tech has a terrible rush defense, but Bucky Irving was absent, man. So either Texas Tech fixed up that problem real quick after their loss, or Bucky Irving just had a terrible game, or he wasn't even in. Don't know what happened there. I was watching different games. So, yeah. Grambling at LSU, I mean, I thought they were going to shut him out. They didn't. They just absolutely killed him. They slaughtered him. Nothing to be said there other than LSU absolutely dominated, as they should. Wisconsin at Washington State, man. Another big upset. I was like, Wisconsin should not struggle against this team. Personally, I do not like this Washington State team. Don't think they're good. Washington State pulls off the upset. And ultimately, I use that word a lot, ultimately. It was just the first half. The first half for Washington State was so much better. The quarterback for Washington State didn't even do that good. I mean, he did decent. 20 for 32, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns. He didn't turn the ball over. He was their leading rusher, though, with 17 carries and 43 yards, which is just not good. Not good at all. And then the Wisconsin quarterback was 25 for 40, 278 yards, and a touchdown. So ultimately, this game looked pretty defensive. I need to stop saying ultimately. Here's the big stat. Guys. Listen. Wisconsin had 3 turnovers, 3 fumbles lost. They fumbled the ball 3 times. In the end, I didn't say it. In the end, Wisconsin had 30 more total yards than Washington State. Washington State had 8 penalties. Wisconsin had 4. Wisconsin also failed to convert on 4th down. Washington State succeeded in converting on 4th down, their only time. And the rushing game was very similar. Passing game was very similar. Washington State just won. They just straight up won. Both teams looked pretty bad. They just won. Wisconsin should not have been ranked. I almost said ultimately. They should not have been ranked. It was just a bad call. Yeah, that's simply it. Southern Mississippi at Florida State. I was like, I don't think Southern Mississippi has any shot at an upset, but they should put down points. That's what they did, but Florida State just put down more, man. They just killed it. Let's see what Jordan Travis did. He probably played great. Oh, I mean, he didn't really play that. I mean, not really. 15 for 29 on completions, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, hey, man, that's for Jordan Travis and what he did to LSU, that's not that good. Their running back, however, 9 carries, 79 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I wonder who it was that just won the game. I don't know if he got injured or whatever. But still, nonetheless, they absolutely dominated. Nothing to be said there. UC Davis at Oregon State. I think I just accidentally changed the score. I removed my prediction on accident. I think I said the score was going to be 0-52. I know I had them shutting him out because I was super high on their defense. Yeah, it was 0-52. That's what it was. I remember. Because I also was like, I just have to replace one number. That was my prediction, was 0-52. Final score was 7-55 with UC Davis and scoring a touchdown against the second strings of final minutes. So they don't shut him out, but they get really close. Oregon State dominates. Let's see actually what. God, every time I record a video, DJ actually didn't really do much. Oh my God. I literally when I record these videos, I just start burping. I don't get it. DJ, 8 for 13, 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, for 13 passes, that's pretty good. 7 carries on the ground, 104 yards and a touchdown. Must have just been the second strings taking course, simply. And then this one, I think I removed my prediction. No. My prediction was Stanford was going to give this defense a hard time. That was just false. That was just entirely wrong. Terrible take. I almost got USC score on the dime. I mean, dude, USC could have absolutely pounded this team into the ground. They went into the half up 3-49. What a statement by USC. I was talking down on this team. Caleb Williams had a fantastic game. 19 for 21, 281 yards and 3 touchdowns. What this could mean is either USC, I talked down on them, and they are actually a pretty good team. They can get her done. Or Stanford is literally just fighting for worst in the Pac-12, right next to ASU. And yeah, ultimately they just, I said it again. They just sucked. There's really nothing to be said here. There's very little takeaways from this week other than, of course, Alabama versus Texas. There's very little takeaways. I feel like the first week provided us with more. That could be a hot take in some world, but yeah. That's the last game of this week. Sorry I went through that really fast. I'm starving. I started recording this video and I got really hungry. So, like and subscribe would help. A comment always helps, and that's all for me. Adios.